What's up everybody, and welcome to another episode of Wrestling with Johners. My name is Johners and this is episode 17. Going to be focusing on the NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool show from Saturday the 12th of January, and boy, what a show it was. So we're back where it all began 2 years ago at the Empress Ballroom in Blackpool, England, where tickets for this show sold out in just 3 minutes. I know, because I tried to get tickets and every 20 seconds I was trying to refresh the page and tickets were going quickly. Every time I was selecting a ticket it was gone, or every time I was selecting a seat it was disappearing faster than you can say. Blackpool, England, and yeah, within 3 minutes all the tickets had sold. But nevertheless, I watched it on the WWE Network and it was one hell of a show. An electric atmosphere from the Empress Ballroom. And I'd say it was even more of a raucous crowd than we had back at the tournament to crown the first ever WWE UK Champion 2 years ago in 2017. And what a card this was. What a monumental show, and what an amazing opener. We saw Moustache Mountain, Tyler Bate and Trent Seven versus the grizzled young veterans. And this is going to be for the brand new NXT Tag Team Championships. So to start the show, Johnny Saint and Sid Scala are in the ring with both teams, and Johnny Saint holding aloft the Tag Team Championship belts like a proud father. Now, the last time we saw Tyler Bate here in Blackpool was 2 years ago when he won the inaugural WWE UK Championship tournament, putting away Pete Dunne in the final. What an epic tournament, what an epic two-night show, two-night event, and what an epic final match between Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne to crown the first ever UK champion. There are loud chants to start this match of shoes off if you hate Gibson from the absolutely incredibly enthusiastic fans in attendance here. Bate and Seven wearing new gear here for this match, black trunks and red tights, very reminiscent of the British Bulldog tag team. So James Drake has been billed as the wild card in this match, with Gibson being the mouthpiece and the promo guy of the team. And definitely the more celebrated worker of the two, having won the UK Championship tournament at the Royal Albert Hall in June 2018 to go on and face Pete Dunne for the championship on night 2 of that historic event at the Royal Albert Hall only last year. But I've seen James Drake wrestle on a number of times and he's exceptionally talented and underrated, and this could be his breakout performance. Bate is a ball of energy as he tangles with James Drake in the centre of the ring. Even Zach Gibson catches a Hurricane Rana from Tyler Bates for his troubles. Trent Seven nails a wicked dive through the ropes, appearing to injure his left elbow on that move, which he sells expertly throughout the rest of this match. Drake and Gibson start laying in the boots on Trent Seven back inside the ring with quick tags between the two heels as they take turns in pummeling Seven, cutting the ring in half expertly. On one of the exchanges, Seven appears to be bleeding heavily from the back of the head following a stiff forearm from James Drake. Trent battles heroically against Drake and Gibson and eventually gets the hot tag to his tag team partner, the former UK champion Tyler Bate, who is a ball of fury once again, backdropping Drake before hoisting both Drake and Gibson onto his shoulders for an incredible double aeroplane spin to the loud ovation from the fans. I don't think I've ever seen that move performed that way before. In another highlight of the match, Trent and Tyler pay homage to the British Bulldogs once again with a running power slam from Seven and a flying headbutt from Bate for a close near fall, and that was fantastic and the fans really appreciated that. There were many other highlights to this match that led to many more close near falls, including a helter-skelter from Gibson followed by a 450 splash from Drake in an excellent double team move of their own onto Trent Seven. There was a double Shankly Gates on the babyface team in the centre of the ring until Bates powered out of the move by throwing James Drake onto his tag team partner Zach Gibson to break his hold on Trent Seven. Everyone was on their feet as they chanted British wrestling as this match reaches a fever pitch. The end of the match, the end of this epic match comes after Gibson lifts Bate onto his shoulders on the outside of the ring, only to be nailed with a diving clothesline through the ropes from James Drake, turning Tyler Bate inside out off of Zach Gibson's shoulders, taking Bate out of the match as he crashed to the floor on the outside. This then allowed Drake and Gibson to hit their Ticket to Mayhem double team finisher on Trent Seven for the 1-2-3, bringing an end to this excellent match, with Drake and Gibson both having their hands raised from Johnny Saint as the winners and the first ever NXT UK Tag Team Champions. That match went 24 minutes, and what a match it was. The match took its toll on all four competitors, with Seven's bloody head and battered body and Bate clotheslined off of Gibson's shoulders on the outside towards the end of the match there. Drake and Gibson walks away as deserving champions and sets up a bit of a chase for the babyface team of Bates and Seven in the coming weeks. Going to give this match a solid 4.25, 4.25 stars out of 5. We then get backstage footage of the Bruiserweight Pete Dunne getting ready for his match tonight. Then we have the matchup between Travis Banks and Jordan Devlin. So prior to this match, we saw some footage of Travis Banks arriving at the Empress Ballroom before being attacked by Jordan Devlin, causing an injury to Travis's previously operated on left knee. As we get ready for this match, it's announced that Travis Banks has been cleared for this match, and he looks ready for action and ready for Jordan Devlin as he comes down to the ring and waits for the Irish Ace to appear. Travis Banks is definitely looking for redemption from that attack as he kind of enters first to this match. Banks waits for no man, however, as he meets Devlin on the rampway, looking for revenge for that earlier attack backstage. However, Devlin is no stranger to a good old fight and a good old brawl, and soon attacks Travis's left knee. At one stage, Devlin throws Banks into the steel ring steps before placing Banks' injured knee onto the ring steps before stomping on it with full force. Thinking his work for the day was over, Devlin takes to the mic in the ring, stating, "I told you, and I told the whole world, there's a reason you don't bet against the Irish Ace." Just then, we have Sid Scala and Johnny Saint, mic in hand, on the rampway, saying that they have a backup plan. The lights go out, and Finn Balor's music starts. The crowd erupts with an outstanding pop from the entrance of Finn Balor. Loud, too sweet chants in the Empress Ballroom, and as the bell rings for the start of the match, with Balor and Devlin standing face to face, Devlin slaps Balor across the face to get the match going. I'm sure that was all the motivation that Finn Balor needed. This was a really fun back and forth match, with Devlin getting his fair share of offense against the first ever WWE Universal Champion. In one spot, Balor goes to the top to deliver his finisher, but Devlin is quick to react with a drop kick, dropping Balor from the top turnbuckle to the floor on the outside. Devlin pulls out all of his moveset to attempt to pull away Finn Balor anyway, with his Uranagi and standing moonsault, which only got him a 2 count. Devlin hits a knee to the head of Balor, an abdominal stretch, a super kick to the head, and a headbutt to Finn Balor. Devlin even pulled out his now infamous ripcord backdrop driver, but only for a 2 count. Finn Balor turns up the aggression with stomps and a running knee on the ring apron. The end of the match comes with an implant DDT and a drop kick into the corner on Devlin from Balor, before climbing to the top rope to hit his coup de grace for the 3 count and a pinfall victory for Finn Balor. That was another fun match, with both men giving it their all, and an amazing showing from Jordan Devlin. And it was great to see Finn Balor wrestle on this stage in front of a very appreciative crowd here in Blackpool. The match went 12 minutes, and in my opinion was a solid 3.25 stars. Really good match there. We then see Joe Coffey warming up for his match backstage with his Gallus stablemates, having his hands taped up, ready for a fight, no doubt, later on in the evening. Luke Menzies is shown in the front row. So Luke Menzies was a former rugby league player, I believe, over here in the UK. He has wrestled once or twice on the NXT US show in the past, but he will soon be part of the NXT UK roster. We look forward to seeing Luke Menzies fairly soon. Match number 3 gives us the Bomber Dave Mastiff versus Eddie Dennis in a no DQ match. Both of these big men start the match slugging it out in the centre of the ring, but it isn't long before the match goes to the outside, with Mastiff sending Dennis hard into the ring steps. Mastiff then breaks the ring steps in half, sending the bottom half of the ring steps into the ring, which will no doubt play a part in the match later on. Dennis finds a Singapore cane from under the ring, amazingly, and wallops Mastiff across the back and the midsection. There's several more cane shots from Mastiff, this time to Dennis, no doubt as a receipt from the earlier exchange. In one of the more impressive spots of the night, Eddie Dennis catches the Bomber in midair and plants Mastiff onto the steel ring steps inside the ring. You could visibly see Dennis's legs wobble on that move, but he manages to pull it off. In another impressive show of strength from Dennis, he manages to execute a massive 7 bridge bomb on the bomber in the ring for a 2 count. Massive hits a Finley roll and a running senton on Dennis on the cold hard floor. Earlier on in the match, Eddie Dennis pulled up the ring mats from the outside, but suffered at the hands of Mastiff on that exchange on the cold hard floor. Dennis manages to avoid a Vader bomb in the corner before hitting his next stop driver slam for a close near fall of his own on Dave Mastiff. The end of the match comes after Mastiff hits his running cannibal through a table which was set up in the corner of the ring earlier on in the match and covers Eddie Dennis for the 1-2-3 after 10 minutes. Going to give this match a solid 2.5 stars. That was another fun match. It wasn't pretty, but it did have plenty of impressive spots, especially with the wiry strength of the Pride of Wales, Eddie Dennis, the 7-bridge bomb from Dennis on Mastiff, the Finley roll and the senton on the outside, and of course the running cannonball through the table to end the match. We then see Kaylee Ray and Jazzy Gabert at the front row. They are the new signees to the women's division for NXT UK. Now, with Kaylee Ray, I'm sure it was only a few months ago we saw her wrestling on TV under the World of Sport banner. She is the current ICW Women's Champion, but obviously she no longer has any ties with the World of Sport, and she has signed a contract to NXT UK. We saw her wrestle quite a few times under the NXT banner, and she actually appeared in the 2017 Mae Young Classic, you may remember. Speaking of the Mae Young Classic from 2017, that's also where we got introduced to Jazzy Gabert, formerly the alpha female in promotions such as TNA. She's a regular in Japan and has also wrestled for many years for WXW in Germany. Gabert was offered a WWE contract, however it had to be rescinded when it was discovered that she had a kind of a long-term neck injury. Gabert had an operation to recover from this injury and to repair whatever damage was done from her many years on the wrestling circuit. And she's obviously recovered and been in touch with WWE. They've re-signed her, and I can't wait to see her be part of the women's division on NXT UK. She's going to be a great addition along with Kaylee Ray.
Finishing Move Limited, specialising in simple, stylish and versatile items to elevate your everyday. Check out their Instagram at Finishing Move Limited and find their elevated essentials range at finishingmovelimited.com.
Match number 4, Rhea Ripley versus Toni Storm for the NXT UK Women's Championship. So Rhea Ripley looks determined as she enters the ring and raises her belt to the camera, with Toni Storm looking for revenge on her loss to Rhea Ripley in the finals of the NXT UK Women's Championship tournament a couple of months ago. And Storm waits for no one as she launches herself through the ropes onto Ripley on the outside. Ripley gets the upper hand by kicking Storm in the face and follows it up with a kick, sending Toni Storm into the barriers at ringside. The crowd appear to be 50-50 in their support for Rhea Ripley and Toni Storm for this match, with Rhea Ripley gaining a strong fan base in a very short space of time. And this has happened because of the work that she put in, the effort that she's put in to her character, to her moveset. She introduced this new hard-edged character in the 2018 Mae Young Classic and has been a dominant champion in NXT UK since beating Toni Storm in the final of the tournament to crown the first ever champion a couple of months ago. This was another back and forth matchup with Ripley, the more methodical, punishing heel, and Toni Storm, the plucky babyface. Storm manages to connect with a picture-perfect hip attack and a German suplex, but only for a 2 count. Rhea Ripley is able to hit a Riptide finisher, but Toni Storm manages to kick out on the 2 count. Storm nails her Storm Zero finisher, but once again, Rhea Ripley is able to kick out on the 2 count. The end of the match comes when both competitors start to exchange punches, when Ripley attempts her Riptide Slam for a second time, only for Toni Storm to float over, and with a handful of hair, she pulls Rhea Ripley into her Storm Zero finisher and manages to hit the move for a 1-2-3 and the pinfall victory to become the second and the brand new NXT Women's Champion. That match went 15 minutes. There's a loud "You Deserve It" chants from the enthusiastic fans in Blackpool. Really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I think both competitors gave it their all during that 15 minutes. I'm going to give it a solid 3.5 stars. Excellent match. and a very deserving winner. But I will just reiterate, I found that Rhea Ripley was a very deserving champion, and a very credible champion with only, a year, maybe 2 years wrestling experience behind her. Full credit to both of those two competitors for putting on a hell of a match. Charlotte Flair was then shown at ringside. Now, she's not joining the NXT UK brand. Unfortunately, she's going to be sticking with SmackDown for the time being anyway. But as you may have seen, Charlotte came over with Triple H and many of the other WWE regulars to help promote the opening of the UK Performance Centre. On to the main event, Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey for the WWE UK Championship. And I think I've seen pictures of the UK Championship bout, and it has NXT on it, so maybe it's now called the NXT UK Championship. Nevertheless, Pete Dunne, the Bruiserweight, has been NXT UK Champion now for 603 days. Incredible, the longest reigning champion of the modern era. Joe Coffey points to the Bruiserweight from inside the ring as Dunne comes down to the ring to defend his championship. There's a loud reaction from the fans as Dunne raises his championship into the air, and this match has a really big fight feel with electric energy in the Empress Ballroom. Coffey is a former 2-time ICW champion, so he knows what it's all about to win big-time matches. The start of the match starts with Pete Dunne doing some joint manipulation on Coffey's hands and fingers. The match starts slowly, building a story within the ring with some good groundwork from both wrestlers, including a regal stretch from Dunne, which Coffey was able to break out of by grabbing the bottom rope, only for Pete Dunne to unceremoniously kick Joe Coffey's hand off the bottom rope. Coffey then slams Pete Dunne hard onto the rampway on the outside with a thud before laying on the onslaught onto Dunne's back with stiff Irish whips into the corner and a backbreaker, managing to get a 2 count. At the midway point of the match, Pete Dunne appears to be in immense pain, grabbing his lower back. Joe Coffey manages to hit a moonsault and a diving spear, sending Dunne hard into the corner before Joe Coffey executes a brilliant powerbomb on the Bruiserweight for another 2 counts. At one stage, Pete Dunne appears to be out of it, completely out cold after a couple of stiff kicks to the head from Joe Coffey. Pete Dunne is able to recover, enabling him to hit a bitter end to the stunned response from all of the fans in attendance. The final 10 to 15 minutes of this match is simply stunning, as Joe Coffey executes a wild spear, sending Pete Dunne spine first into the ring post on the outside. Coffey then hits a powerbomb onto Dunne on the ring apron, with all of the punishment being done to the champion's back. Pete Dunne's championship is looking in danger at this point. Coffey hits the best for the bells, almost taking the championship as everyone is on their feet for that amazing close near fall. Coffey launches Dunne from the top rope with a huge slam to holy shit chants from the fans, and Pete Dunne has not looked as vulnerable as he does right at this moment before. Coffey gets another close near fall with a high German suplex. In possibly the chant of the night, the fans of the Empress Ballroom chant, "Are you watching Vince McMahon?" Even at this point, with both men close to exhaustion, Pete Dunne manages to nail a bitter end from out of nowhere, but Dunne can't capitalise as Coffey rolls out of arm's reach. Towards the end of the match, Pete Dunne and Joe Coffey are both on the top turnbuckle, setting up for a top rope manoeuvre, obviously, which went wrong as Joe Coffey falls from the top turnbuckle, landing hard on the outside, with Pete Dunne falling into the ring on that exchange. There's another big lariat and a huge slam from Coffey for a 2 count. Coffey and Dunne both climb to the top rope again to attempt the same top rope move that led to Coffey falling to the outside a little earlier on. But this time both men lose their balance and fall hard to the outside. This is crazy, and everyone is worried for both men. And I believe one man, possibly Joe Coffey, fell hard into the ring barrier. Both men finally get back into the ring where Pete Dunne executes a bitter end for the 3rd time, but Joe Coffey still kicks out. The end of the match comes when Pete Dunne just grabs Joe Coffey's fingers and snaps them hard for the submission win. Joe Coffey taps out, can't take any more punishment, can't take any more joint manipulation, and at the end of the match I was completely spent, especially the last 10 to 15 minutes, which gave us non-stop action with plenty of false finishes, plenty of hard-hitting spots and drama, the likes of which I have not seen in a long, long time. Like many people watching at home, I for one was shouting at the TV from my living room, especially when the guys fell from the top turnbuckle to the outside. I'm 99% sure that neither of those two turnbuckle spots were planned, and I can't remember feeling genuine terror for the safety of the wrestlers during a match. Since maybe the Mankind Undertaker Hell in a Cell match from 21 years ago, I was fully invested in this match and the action from word go. And I may not have been the biggest Joe Coffey fan going into this match, but I did actually wonder whether Joe Coffey was the right man to main event the show against Pete Dunne for the championship. But by the end of the match, boy, was I a believer. I was proved 100% wrong, with Coffey making a firm believer out of me. Both men wrestled to the point of exhaustion, and that could very well be the reason why both men couldn't execute whatever the planned move was on the top turnbuckle on those two exchanges. Huge credit to both men to get back into the ring and to end the match the way they did. What a match. God knows what my family must have thought with all of the shouting at the television. And then the closing graphic was displayed at the bottom corner of the screen. And we all thought that that was the end of the show. I would have been perfectly satisfied with that. But oh no. The music of the ring general, Walter, starts, and to the eruption of the fans in Blackpool. With many of the fans being familiar with Walter's work on the Indies, but now the ring general is in the WWE. Joe Coffey attempts to get back into the ring, only to be greeted with a big boot from Walter, sending Coffey back to the outside before Walter goes face to face with the Bruiserweight holding the UK Championship between his teeth as the show finally goes off the air. So there you have it, the NXT UK, the WWE debut of the big man, Walter, the ring general. I think he's still current OTT champion, still current Progress champion in the UK. And what an addition he's going to be to the NXT UK roster. I heard in an interview between him and Stone Cold Steve Austin that he was not keen on signing with the WWE, certainly not keen on working in America. He was happy in Germany, he was happy working in Europe, and we knew a month or so ago when I mentioned here on a previous episode of Wrestling with Johners that Walter had signed. I think deep down we knew that Walter didn't want to work abroad and that he was happy working in Europe, and that led me to believe at the time that he'd possibly join NXT UK and that he may well be part of this show. And yes, he was. That looks like that could be our next big feud for the NXT UK Championship, Pete Dunne and Walter going forward. It could very well be a match at NXT TakeOver New York, 2 nights before WrestleMania this coming April. It has been rumoured that the UK Championship will be defended on that show, and what a bigger and better opponent than Walter to be standing across the ring from Pete Dunne in New York. WrestleMania weekend. Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey's match, absolutely amazing. With 35 minutes, I know that there's some haters of this match online on the various groups. Absolutely fine. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion. My opinion was that it was outstanding, and I think with any long match like this one going 35 minutes, you got to look at it like a theatre production, like acts in a play or maybe acts in a movie where you've got 3 acts. You've got the first part, which is establishing the match, maybe a bit of a slower pace, maybe lots of ground holds, maybe some submission moves, and that's certainly what we saw here. The middle part of the match, the pace definitely started to pick up with some really big moves from both wrestlers, and the final third, you had all them thrills and spills to the outside, the big moves, the big false finishes, and then the end of the match. So I thought it was perfectly worked from beginning to end. Some people thought that the falls to the outside from the top turnbuckle were botches. Yeah, they probably were botches. The guys were hot, they were sweaty. The ring ropes and the turnbuckles were probably sweaty as well from a night's worth of actions and matches. Both guys were possibly absolutely exhausted at that point as well. So, but what I found was it added to the drama and it added to the realism of the match. And like I said, much like some of the action at the Hell in a Cell match from 21 years ago, Mankind versus Undertaker, some of their moves weren't thought out in advance. Some of their moves weren't meant to be part of the action, like when Mankind got chokeslammed through the cage onto the canvas. That wasn't really meant to happen. So that it was very reminiscent of the feelings that I felt when I saw that match, where it felt real. And that's the emotion you want to get out of a match, whether it's planned or unplanned. You want that sense of realism. You want it to feel real. You want it to draw emotion out of you and the audience. And it definitely did that. I thought the match was golden. Initially, I wanted to give it 5 stars. It's going to be 4.75, 4.75 stars for this match. I thought it was outstanding and one of the best main events I've seen in a long time. It definitely delivered for me. And I know that it delivered for the fans in attendance. Overall, I thought this was an excellent show, much like the takeovers that we used to from NXT America. NXT UK definitely delivered on their first big show, TakeOver Blackpool. An amazing opener between Moustache Mountain and Drake and Gibson. I gave that one 4.5 stars, so what a way to start the show. Then we saw Finn Balor in a surprise taking the place of Travis Banks, who was injured earlier on in the night, to take on Jordan Devlin in a really fun match. Jordan Devlin really demonstrated what he's capable of, and the story of the match was Jordan Devlin was trained by Finn Balor, the Jedi Master and the Padawan, the face versus the heel, but yeah, really good outing there from Finn Balor coming over to the UK and facing his former protege Jordan Devlin. A hard-hitting no DQ match between the Bomber Dave Mastiff and Eddie Dennis, with Eddie Dennis demonstrating some awesome strength with some of his moves on the Bomber there, and the Bomber kind of flying around the ring like a cruiserweight and putting Dennis through the table with his cannonball senton, to end the match. Toni Storm winning the NXT UK Women's Championship from Rhea Ripley, and an excellent match full of emotion, some really good drama there as well. Thoroughly enjoyed that match, and a deserved winner in Toni Storm, but a really bright future ahead for Rhea Ripley, especially with her being such a dominant champion on the NXT UK brand, and I wouldn't be surprised to see a rematch between these two down the line. And then the main event, I've just spoken about it for the last 10 minutes, Pete Dunne versus Joe Coffey, putting in a shift in an epic match for the NXT UK Championship. Seeing Jazzy Gabert and Kaylee Ray sitting ringside. We've already spoken about Kaylee Ray and Jazzy Gabert, and I think they're going to be really credible opponents for the likes of Toni Storm and the rest of the women's division in NXT UK. And then Walter, the ring general, making his first appearance on WWE TV as part of the NXT UK roster, and will no doubt be the next opponent for the UK champion Pete Dunne, and quite possibly the most credible opponent for Pete Dunne's championship, and could likely take the championship off of Pete Dunne. My prediction is that Walter will be the next NXT UK champion, and I would love to see them two get at it, take over New York, WrestleMania weekend. That's my prediction. But like I say, that's my prediction, that's my thoughts on this show, NXT TakeOver Blackpool from the 12th of January. What are your thoughts? Let us know. Did you enjoy the main event as much as I did? Did you enjoy the show overall as much as I did? I will soon be reviewing the Nigel McGuinness documentary that aired after TakeOver Blackpool on the WWE Network, and my thoughts on that will be part of my next episode of Wrestling with Johners later on this week. In the meantime, keep listening to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe, and shout about Wrestling with Johners to your friends and to your family if you enjoyed this podcast. If you have any questions or simply want to get in touch with me or the podcast, you can email the show at wrestlingwithjohners@gmail.com. You can get in touch via our Twitter page at withjohners_pod. Or visit my YouTube page and see all of my wrestling videos there, all of my time in New Orleans from April, and all of the podcasts up there as well. Just simply go to YouTube and search Wrestling with Johners. You can also follow us now on Instagram. Just simply type in www.instagram.com/Wrestling with Johners. That's instagram.com/Wrestling with Johners. So I'll be back very soon for another episode of Wrestling with Johners. But in the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe. Tell your friends and family if you enjoyed what you heard today. So take care and speak to you all soon.